The sky above was dark purple, filled with 2 suns and a ring of glowing moons. Jack Harper stepped out of his spaceship onto the alien soil for the first time. He was Earth's first diplomat to visit this planet, called Illyria. His boots crunched the strange blue grass. And he took a deep breath. The air was clean, but there was something in it, a strange smell, like metal and flowers mixed together. He looked around, expecting a welcome party. Instead, there was silence. A small group of aliens stood nearby, watching him with wide, cautious eyes. They were tall, with smooth silver skin and bright glowing eyes. None of them moved. Then, a young alien girl slowly walked forward. She had long white hair and wore a simple robe with strange glowing symbols. Without saying a word, she knelt in front of Jack and bowed her head low. Jack blinked, surprised. He gave an awkward smile and said, "There's no need to bow." But the girl didn't look up. She stayed on her knees, her hands shaking slightly. Jack felt a chill run down his back. This wasn't respect. It looked more like fear. "Hey," he said gently. "It's okay, I'm not here to hurt anyone." Still, no one answered. The rest of the aliens slowly lowered their heads too, like they were afraid to even look at him. Jack turned on his comm device and whispered, "Base, are you seeing this?" A voice crackled back, "We see it, Jack, but we don't understand it either. Proceed with caution." Jack nodded and took a step closer to the girl. "What's your name?" he asked. The girl looked up, finally meeting his eyes. Her voice was soft and careful. "My name is Ray." "Nice to meet you, Ray," Jack said, trying to smile again. But Ray didn't smile back. Instead, she said something that made his heart skip a beat. "You've returned, just like the story said." Jack tilted his head. "What stories?" She didn't answer. Instead, Ray stood up and slowly walked away, disappearing behind the other aliens. Jack stood there, confused and uneasy. What did she mean by returned? He had never been here before. Or had he? Later that night, Jack walked through the alien city. It was beautiful tall silver towers, glowing bridges, and floating lights in the air. But everywhere he went, people whispered and moved aside when they saw him. Some even bowed. Just like Ray, some looked away in fear. No one treated him like a guest. They treated him like a ghost. Jack couldn't sleep. He sat in his room, thinking about Ray's words. What did she know? Why was she so afraid of him? He opened his data tablet and searched through Illyria's public records. He found something strange, a myth, thousands of years old. It talked about a sky flame who came from the stars and walked like a man. The sky flame had a face like Jack. It said he came during the burning time, when the sky turned red and cities fell. He brought light and destruction. And then he vanished. Jack stared at the old image carved on a stone tablet. It was worn and faded, but he could clearly see it. The same sharp jaw, same eyes, same hair. It looked exactly like him. This can't be real. Jack whispered. Humans had only discovered this planet a year ago. There was no way someone like him had been here before, unless... Suddenly, a soft knock came at the door. It was Ray, standing quietly in the hallway. She looked nervous, but determined. "I need to show you something," she said. Jack followed her through the dark streets until they reached an old building. It looked like a temple, covered in vines and glowing marks. Inside, the walls were filled with carvings and ancient symbols. Ray lit a small torch, and the flame danced across a giant mural. Jack stared at it, frozen. It showed a tall man with light in his hands, standing over kneeling aliens. Behind him was fire, war, and stars falling from the sky. "That's the sky flame." Ray said, "That's you." "No," Jack said. "That's not me." She turned to him, her eyes shining with fear. "Then why do you have his face?" Jack didn't know what to say. He looked again at the mural, and for a moment, he felt something. A memory, maybe, a flash of fire, screams, and stars collapsing. His hands began to shake. Something was very wrong, and the worst part? He was starting to feel like Ray might be right. Maybe. This wasn't his first time on this planet. The stars outside were not shining like before. Jack sat alone on the high balcony of the Illyrian tower, staring into the strange twin moons. Something inside him felt broken. He had come here for peace, but now nothing felt peaceful. Behind his eyes, the fire still burned. Visions he couldn't explain, flashes of war. Screams in alien tongues, skies tearing apart. He told himself it was stress, or maybe a dream. But deep inside, he feared something worse. What if those were memories? And what if they were his? A soft voice called from behind. It was Ray, standing in the doorway, her white hair glowing under moonlight. "There's something you need to see," she said, her voice shaking. Jack followed her down the quiet stone steps into the old district. The city was asleep, but the silence felt heavy. Like the buildings were holding their breath. They reached a sealed gate made of black crystal, guarded by two older aliens in dark robes. The guards looked at Ray, then at Jack, and stepped aside without a word. "You brought him here?" One of them whispered to Ray. "He has the right," she replied. Then she looked at Jack and added softly, "Or the curse." Inside was a hidden chamber filled with ancient scrolls, carvings, and dust older than Earth's history. Blue flames floated above, lighting the room with a soft, cold glow. On the far wall, a giant stone mural showed a human-like figure falling from the stars. Wrapped in fire, "The legend is not just a story," Ray said. "It's history we were forbidden to speak." Jack moved closer to the mural. Heart pounding, the carved face was again his own, long ago. The aliens called him Kelther, the Sky Flame, a being who arrived from the stars with knowledge, power, and rage. He united cities, built wonders, and then, in one night of fury, destroyed half the planet. He was not a god, Ray said, but he was more than a man. Jack turned to her, confused. "How is this possible?" "I've never been here before." Ray looked away. "There's a belief in our oldest texts. It says some souls return, again and again, across time, across space." She met his eyes. "We think you are him, reborn." Jack stepped back, his breath short. "No," he said. "I'm just an explorer, a diplomat. I don't destroy things." Ray nodded slowly. "But maybe." "Not yet." Suddenly, the ground shook, a low hum rising from beneath their feet. The flames above flickered, and the air turned colder. The oldest priest entered the chamber. Leaning on a silver staff, he looked at Jack with both fear and sadness. "The weapon is waking," the priest said. "It feels his presence." "What weapon?" Jack asked, heart racing. The priest pointed to a sealed vault behind the mural. "It's called the Silence Engine. It once turned our sun dark for 7 days." Jack's skin turned cold. "And only Kelther could control it," the priest whispered. "Only his blood, his voice, his mind." Ray stepped closer to Jack, her eyes wide. "If that machine wakes fully," she said, "it will scan for enemies, and it will see Earth." Jack shook his head. "I came here to bring peace, not destruction, but your past didn't." Ray whispered. The priest slowly placed a scroll in Jack's hands. It was written in a mix of old Illyrian and something older, something eerily close to ancient Earth symbols. Jack's hands trembled as he opened it. One line stood out, glowing faintly as if it remembered him. "He who holds the fire also holds the end." Jack looked up, and the vault door behind the mural began to glow. Something inside was waking up. A sudden voice crackled through Jack's communicator. "Jack, the ship is losing power. All systems dropping." Ray looked at him in horror. "It has started," she said. "The countdown has begun." Jack ran out of the chamber, his mind spinning. Who was he really? And could he stop what was coming? Behind him, Ray whispered to herself, "I vowed to protect you, not to worship you. But now, it may be too late." He woke up choking, sweat dripped down his face, and his heart was beating like a war drum. Jack sat up in the strange Illyrian bed, gasping for air. The dream had felt too real. He had seen a burning city. He was standing on a mountain of ash. People were screaming his name, not in fear, but in praise. They were calling him Kelther, and he had smiled. Jack touched his face. It was still him. Still human, still Jack. But the man in the dream was not him, or was he? He looked at his reflection in the mirror. His own eyes stared back, but something was hiding behind them. A shadow waiting. He dressed quickly and left the room. The city was quiet, but he didn't feel alone. The air around him seemed to whisper. To watch, to remember, down the ancient hallway. Ray was waiting for him. She looked tired. Like she hadn't slept either. You saw it, didn't you? She said before he even spoke. Jack nodded slowly. Yes, but they weren't my memories, Ray. Step closer. That's how it starts. The visions come first, then the feelings, then the voices. Jack laughed nervously. Voices? Great. She didn't laugh. Instead, she handed him a small metal disc, glowing faintly blue. This was found in the ruins after the sky flame disappeared, she said. It holds a part of his mind. Jack looked at the disc, unsure. You want me to use it? Ray nodded. It might help you understand who you really are. Jack placed the disc on his temple. The world disappeared. Darkness, then light, then fire. He was standing on a golden battlefield. Alien soldiers kneeled before him, chanting. Ships flew above like birds of war. Beside him stood Ray, not the girl, but a warrior. Older, stronger, her eyes cold like stone. You were everything to them. A deep voice echoed in Jack's mind. The hero, the god, the destroyer. Who are you? Jack asked, looking around the dream world. The voice replied, I am the part you left behind. I am Kelther. Jack shook his head. I'm not you, the voice laughed. Not yet. Suddenly, Jack felt something inside him crack. He saw flashes as hands pushing buttons on the silence engine. Planets burning, systems dying, but also peace. He had ended wars, brought order, stopped chaos. At a cost, the voice said. You came to bring peace again, didn't you? Just like last time. Jack fell to his knees, covering his ears. No, I'm not you. I'm not a killer. You were never just one thing, the voice whispered. You were both the sword and the shield. Then everything vanished. Jack woke up on the floor. Gasping again, Ray was holding him, eyes wide with fear. What did you see? She asked. Jack looked at her, voice shaking. I saw you, Ray. You were with him, Kelther. You were his general. Ray looked away. Then it's true. What is? Jack asked. She stood slowly and walked to the window. There's a reason the disc responds only to you, she said. It's not just about the past. It's about the future. Jack followed her gaze. In the sky above, Earth's ship was. Still flickering, lights dim, struggling to stay in orbit. The silence engine is waking, Ray said. And you're the only one it listens to. Jack clenched his fists. I won't become him, he said. I'll stop it, whatever it takes. But somewhere deep inside, a small voice laughed again, and it sounded a lot like Kelther, asterisk. There was no wind, no sound, just a strange humming beneath the ground. Like a heartbeat trying to wake, Jack stood at the edge of the ruined canyon. Below him, buried under broken towers and ash, lay the thing everyone feared, the silence engine, a weapon so powerful it could turn off the light of a sun. Ray stood. Beside him, her face pale, her voice was quiet. This place was once a city, a beautiful one. Jack looked down. What happened to it? She didn't blink. He happened. Jack knew who she meant, Kelther. The other version of him, the part of him he never chose to be. They took a slow path down into the ruins. Old machines rose from the dust like bones. Dead screens flickered. When Jack passed by, some tried to speak. One whispered in a voice like broken glass. Welcome back, Commander. Jack's skin turned cold. He hadn't touched anything, but the weapon knew him. It remembered him. Ray led him to a sealed gate, made of black steel and glowing locks. It opened by itself as Jack stepped forward. No code, no key, just recognition. The chamber inside was massive, like the heart of a dead god. In the center stood the engine, tall, dark, and pulsing with blue veins of light. It looked alive and angry, Jack approached it slowly. As he did, screens around the room lit up with old files, war logs, maps of destroyed systems, messages from the past. He heard his own voice, Kelthur's voice, echoing through the room. Target neutralized. Silence delivered. Order maintained. Ray stepped back. It's feeding on your presence. It thinks the war is still going. Jack reached out toward the machine. The lights grew brighter. The ground shook. The engine spoke in a deep metallic tone. Command restored. Target acquired. Countdown initiated. Jack pulled his hand back. What target? The engine replied, Sol system, Earth, 36 hours to execution. Jack's breath caught. His own planet had become the target. By recognizing him, the engine believed Kelthur had returned to finish what he started. No, 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 Jack muttered. This is wrong. He turned to Ray. Can we shut it down? She looked at him with sad eyes. There's only one way. You have to finish the last command. Only then can the system be overwritten. Jack shook his head. What was the last command? Ray didn't answer. Instead, she pointed to a screen. It showed a locked file marked, Final Order, Activate Protocol, RAE09. Jack stared at it, confused. That's your name, he whispered. Ray nodded. I was created as the backup. Key, my bloodline, my code, it's inside this machine. You were made for this? Jack asked, shocked. I was born for this, she said. But if we use the protocol, I will be erased, my memories, my voice, my past all gone. Jack stepped back, heart pounding. No, we'll find another way. The engine's voice cut through the silence again. 35 hours to execution. Jack looked at Ray. She didn't flinch. Her eyes were calm, but full of something else, something human. Why didn't you tell me this before? He asked. Because, Ray said softly, you weren't ready to choose. Jack turned to the machine. Flashes of war filled his head. He saw planets dying, cities falling, stars winking out like candles in the dark. He had been this monster before. He would not be him again. Jack stepped toward the console. He had 35 hours to decide, save Earth or save Ray, and maybe, just maybe, lose himself forever. The walls were alive, not with blood or breath, but with memory. As Jack stepped inside the control core of the silence engine, the air shifted, cold, not like wind, but like time. He had agreed to Ray's plan, but every step felt like betrayal. He was walking into the brain of a weapon that had once destroyed galaxies, and now it was opening for him like an old friend. The doors sealed behind him with a soft hiss. Then the floor lit up under his boots, symbols glowing in a spiral. Welcome back, Kelthur, a soft digital voice said. Jack closed his eyes. That name again. I am not him, he whispered. But the engine didn't care. A pulse of blue light passed through him. The room blurred, then melted into something else. Jack wasn't standing in metal anymore. He was standing in memory. A city surrounded him, floating in the stars. Fire rained down. People screamed. Alien soldiers fought humans in shining armor. Then he saw himself, not as Jack, but Kelthur, eyes burning gold, hands raised, pulling energy from the sky. Jack shouted, "Stop it!" But it was just a recording, a ghost. The past didn't listen. Why are you showing me this? He yelled. A voice answered from the shadows of memory. Because you are me. Jack turned, and there he was, Kelthur, the real one, older, taller, stronger, but with the same face. His eyes were calm but filled with danger. You're not real, Jack said. You're just data, Kelthur smiled. Then why do I remember what your hands feel like? Jack stepped back. He didn't know if this was a dream, a vision, or a trap, but it felt real. Too real. I'm not you, Jack said again, louder this time. Kelthur tilted his head. You carry my blood, my mind, my fears. You don't have to make the same choices, but you will. No, Jack said. I came to stop this. The ghost of Kelthur raised one hand, and the stars above turned dark. You came to finish it, he said, suddenly. Jack was drowning in memories. A child on a burning ship, training in silence, turning planets into shadows, all these images. They weren't his, but they lived inside him now. "Get out of my head," Jack shouted. Kelther stepped closer. "You unlocked the engine, you woke me. Now I'm offering a gift power without fear, rule without doubt." Jack clenched his fists. "I don't want to rule. I want to protect." Kelther's smile faded. "Then you are weak." Lightning cracked in the sky. The city began to break apart. The memory world was collapsing. Then a voice broke through. "Jack, listen to me." It was Ray, speaking from the real world. "Through the link. Don't let him in. You're stronger than him." Kelther growled. "She cannot save you." "She is part of me too." Jack looked around. The city burned again, but this time he saw something new. A child, hiding in the corner, crying. It was him, not Kelther, not the ghost, just Jack, scared, lost human. He walked to the child and knelt down. "I know you're afraid," he said, "but we're not alone." The child looked up, and the world cracked like glass. Suddenly, Jack was back. The control core lit up red, alarm screaming. Memory sequence interrupted. Unknown override detected. Jack fell to his knees, shaking. Ray burst into the chamber, running to him. "You came back," she said, holding his face. "I found myself," Jack whispered. "Not him, just me." Then the main screen lit up with one final message. "Final lock broken. Protocol RAE09 ready." Ray looked at the screen, then at Jack. "It's time," she said. Jack nodded, but his hands trembled. "I don't want to lose you." "You're not losing me," Ray said softly. "You're setting me free." The chamber felt colder now, not because of the machine, but because of the silence between them. Jack stood beside Ray, staring at the screen. Protocol RA09 ready. Her name was the key. She had known all along. "I didn't tell you before," Ray whispered, "because I didn't want you to stop me." Jack looked at her, eyes wide. "You knew you were the key, this whole time?" She nodded, her hands shaking slightly. "I was born from a line of Watchers. My blood carries the code that ends this weapon." Jack's heart dropped. "You mean you were never just a girl? You were designed for this?" "No," Ray said, stepping closer. "I was raised for this, but I chose to be your friend. That was real." He felt like the floor was falling under him. "So what happens if you activate the protocol?" Ray looked at the glowing machine. "The weapon shuts down forever. The memory of Kelther is erased, but so is the key." "You," Jack whispered. She nodded. "My mind, my memories, who I am, will all vanish." Jack stepped back. "No, there has to be another way." "There's not," Ray said gently. "This engine doesn't understand kindness. It only understands codes, commands, and sacrifices." For a moment, neither of them spoke. Only the machine hummed, impatient, waiting. Ray took something out of her robe. A small pendant, glowing softly. "This belonged to the first Ray," she said. "The one who stood beside Kelther. The one who tried to stop him before." Jack stared at it. A simple object, yet it held generations of history and pain. "I didn't bow to you because you were powerful," Ray said. "I bowed because I hoped you were different." Jack closed his eyes. He had never felt so powerless. He had stopped the ghost in his mind, but he couldn't stop this. "Let me do it," he said suddenly. "I'll take your place," Ray smiled sadly. "You can't. The system was built with only one name coded into the final key mine." Tears formed in Jack's eyes. "I didn't come here to lose you." "You didn't," Ray said. "You helped me find who I really am." "I'm not a weapon. I'm not a tool." She stepped forward, placed the pendant into a glowing slot on the console. The chamber lit up with light, white and pure. The walls showed memories of Ray's childhood, of her laughter, of her first time seeing Earth from a screen. "This is goodbye," she said softly. Jack rushed forward, grabbing her hand. "Will you remember me?" She paused, her eyes wet but peaceful. "I hope not," she said, "because that means I'll be free." The machine's voice echoed. Protocol confirmed. Countdown 10. Ray leaned in, placed her forehead against Jack's. "Don't carry my name like a weight," she whispered. "Carry it like a promise." 9, 8, 7. Light surrounded her. She looked at peace, not afraid. Then she was gone. The pendant hit the ground. The light faded, and the silence engine powered down. Completely, Jack stood alone. The room was quiet. Too quiet. No ghost. No command, no Ray. He dropped to his knees but didn't cry, because somewhere deep inside, he knew she had become more than memory. She had become legacy. 1 year later, the stars looked quieter. The galaxy had changed, not because of war, but because one person chose peace. Jack Harper stood on the cliffs of Illyria, where the city used to be. The towers were gone. The weapons were gone. Even the silence engine was now a cold, dead shell buried beneath his feet. He looked older now, not by age, but by weight, the weight of memory. The humans had built a small outpost here, a research colony, peaceful and quiet, no armies, no control, just learning. Children from Earth played in the blue grass. Alien families came and went. No one bowed. And Jack preferred it that way. He visited the same spot every morning. Where Ray had disappeared, he spoke to the wind, not because he expected a reply, but because silence sometimes answers louder than words. Today, something was different. A soft melody floated through the air, a song. He turned toward the sound. There, near the river, stood a young girl, maybe 9 or 10, with white hair and silver eyes. She was humming the same tune Ray used to hum when she couldn't sleep. Jack froze, his heart skipped. He walked closer, gently, not wanting to scare her. "Hi," he said softly. The girl looked at him, tilting her head. "Hi," she replied, smiling. "What's your name?" he asked. She paused, as if unsure. "They call me Ellen." Jack sat beside her. "Nice name," he said. "Where did you learn that song?" She looked at the water. "I don't know. I've always known it." Jack's hands trembled. He wanted to ask more, but part of him already knew some things. Don't leave, they just return, in new shapes, in new hearts. She stood up, brushing dust from her clothes. Then without warning, she bowed, not in fear, not in duty, just in peace. Jack smiled softly, his voice gentle. "There's no need to bow." The girl looked up and said, "I know," and for the first time in a long time, Jack felt whole, not because Ray had returned, but because her choice had survived. Peace had survived. Kindness had survived. She had become more than a person. She had become a legacy. He looked up at the stars, and they no longer burned. They simply watched. The silence engine would never wake again, but something else had hope.